So thank you for everyone for joining today. We've got a webinar to kick off the summer term with the National Education Nature Park. So today, we'll start with a few housekeeping things. The webinar will be running from now, so at 4 until about 4:45, and it will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel and the website along with all of our webinars. So you can check it out there if you can't stay for the whole thing or you want to share it with anyone. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will answer them as we go. And if we've got some time at the end, we'll also answer some of them live as well. And if there's a question that you think, actually, I want to know the answer to that as well, give it a thumbs up and then we know which ones to prioritise. And if you've got any questions that we don't answer or don't get to, you can always send them through to our email address as well, which we'll put in the chat, but it's hello@educationnaturepark.org.uk. So to start with, you're going to hear from me. So I'm Laura Jacklin. I'm the Strategic Communications Lead for the National Education Nature Park based at the Natural History Museum. And you'll also hear from two of my colleagues, Tom Lawrence and Juliana Sinclair, who are community science officers working on the science side of the project, also based at the Natural History Museum. So to start, just to recap, what is the National Education Nature Park? So the Nature Park programme is a free education programme that empowers the next generation to understand, care for and improve the natural world. So it's been commissioned by the Department for Education as part of their sustainability and climate change strategy, and it's led by the Natural History Museum working with the Royal Horticultural Society and lots of other partners as well. The programme follows a 5-step cycle, which young people lead the way in turning their school sites from grey areas into green spaces by improving or creating new habitats on their site. So this could look like installing a pond or planting wildflowers, all sorts of different things to create new nature-rich spaces to benefit the school community and also the local wildlife as well. We've got a range of curriculum-aligned resources which put nature and climate at the heart of everyday teaching and learning across all subjects and key stages. So they've been really designed to fit into the school day to complement the work that you're already doing. And what's really exciting about this project as well is that it's collecting valuable data about nature on school sites across the whole of England. So what's currently living and growing on school sites is a bit of a mystery. So by taking part, you're really helping us paint that picture and taking part in important global biodiversity research to help nature recover, which the team like Tom and Juliana are working on. So it's all really exciting and amazing to be a part of. Who's it for? So it's for all schools, nurseries and colleges in England. And really importantly, you don't need any access to large playgrounds or green spaces. And in fact, the kind of small concrete grey areas have the most potential. So whatever space you've got, you can take part and really make a big difference. And every small action adds up to have a massive impact, which you can see on the National Education Nature Park map as well. So you can see all of the collective impact that we're all having by taking part. You don't need any prior knowledge in climate or nature education. All of our resources are on the website. They're free to access. We've got lots of webinars to help support you on the journey and a whole team that we're really here to help you no matter where you are. So definitely do get in touch. It's designed to fit into the school day, as I mentioned before. And it's for children and young people all the way up to Key Stage 5. So it spans all age ranges and subject areas as well. And it's linked to various curriculum, subject and school priorities. So again, it's really meant to complement the work that you're already doing. So the latest numbers, very excitingly, we've now got 4,000 sites on the Nature Park map. So one of the first things you do when you join is add your site boundary to the map. So we've got 4,000 of those now, which is glowing even more and really exciting to see. So you can see that on the website at the moment. But we've got more than 9,000 schools, nurseries and colleges registered and taking part in some way. So it's so exciting to see that number growing and growing and seeing the impact that everyone's having. We've also got schools have mapped now more than 22.5 million square metres of habitat mapped across the whole of England, which is equivalent to around 18,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So all of that space that as I've said before, is a bit of a mystery. We're kind of filling in those gaps by all of the amazing data you're collecting about the habitats on your site. Couple of highlights from last term. So we've got new resources coming on the website all the time. And last term, we launched some new ones in maths, science and computing. So if you head to the resources section of the website, you can check them out and see them there. We've also seen the Nature Park included in some wider government DFE policy at the moment. So it's in the Sustainability Support Programme of the Nature Park have been mentioned in the Education Estate's 10-year strategy, which is brilliant to see it being recognised as an integral part of school planning, and also the fact that we want the whole school on board. It's great to see the role of estates staff recognised in the Nature Park programme with its inclusion there. We've also got loads of success stories. So a couple of highlights I wanted to pull out. So we've got Kenda Primary School, who have been working hard by installing a pond on their school site. And what's really cool is their school is next to a community garden, and they've created little frog corridors in the wall, which you can see on the top right there. So the frogs can migrate from one community pond to the school pond as well. So it's creating wildlife corridors for them there. And the school have been using this to understand a lot of the life experiences of the children who attend that school. So yeah, really amazing to see that work. And we've also got Highfield Primary School, who've been taking part in eco schools for a long time and have been using that in conjunction with the Nature Park to really transform a woodland area they've got and do loads of other fantastic work, as you can see on the bottom right there. All of the success stories are available on the Nature Park website, so do check them out there. And coming up this term, so the summer term is obviously, the weather is hopefully getting a bit better. It's sunny now. Let's hope it stays that way. So it's a really great time to be getting outside and make the changes as part of your Nature Park journey. So getting outside, making those changes, and really importantly, tracking those changes on the Nature Park map with the tracking change tool, which Tom and Juliana will be talking a little bit more about, is really important. So we can see the impact that everyone is having and how that's adding up. We've also got 3 nature surveys now on the website. So it's all about recording wildlife on your site, seeing what you've already got living and growing there, how that's improving over time. Tom and Juliana are going to be talking about those in a few minutes. So it's a really good time of year to be getting out and doing them. And Nature Discovery Week is a week that we're having the 29th of June to the 3rd of July, when you can take part in all of these nature surveys. So you can do these throughout the summer term, but Nature Discovery Week is a great time to kind of set some time aside, take your class outside and get involved in these surveys and see the impact everyone's having during that week. So we'd love you to get involved and celebrate with us during the summer term by taking part in Nature Discovery Week. So I'm going to hand over to Tom now, who's going to take us through the nature surveys and lots of other things to be getting involved with this term. So yeah, over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Laura. And as I said, now is the perfect time to be getting out there on your school site to see what you've got on your site, but also if you've made some changes, see the impact of those changes. So what I'm going to be doing is touching on a few of the Nature Park surveys that you can see here, and then I'll be passing on to Juliana, who's going to be talking about iNaturalist, and then what you can do with all that rich data that you have collected. So we've redesigned our pages around our nature surveys. One of the great things about this program is we're able to incorporate feedback that we get from educators. So for anything that you come across on the website, if you interacted with it before or you're going to start interacting with it now, please do send in any constructive feedback that you have, because we want this program to work for teachers and for learners as well as possible. So if you have anything that you really think the program might benefit, or a page might benefit from this little tweak, please don't hesitate to send it in, because it could be that someone else has already sent in that feedback before, and if we see that a number of people are suggesting things, then we can incorporate that. So we did get some feedback around our pages around our nature survey, so we've transformed these pages, we've redesigned them to make them much more accessible and to make it much easier for yourselves as educators to see which of these surveys might work best for your site, might work best for your students, but most importantly, what might work best for where you are in the curriculum and what you're teaching. Because reminder, as Laura said, the idea for Nature Park is that it slots into the curriculum. It's not something you're having to do outside of the curriculum. It can just easily slot in with the curriculum that you are teaching. So what we currently have is we have got 2 sort of structured surveys, the pollinator count the grassland plant survey, and then iNaturalist, which Juliana will talk about that. So what we're going to briefly mention is what each of these surveys are, and then some of the resources that we have on the website around them. Next slide, please. Just a heads up, we do, as part of this relaunch, we have a whole page about how to plan and prepare your nature surveys. So that's a lot of guidance for yourselves. So things like how you might choose where on your site to do the survey, whether you should do it directly on a digital, like on a tablet or a mobile device initially, or whether you want to do it on paper and upload it afterwards. Those options are there for both surveys. Different ways to involve your learners. There's not just one way to do it with your learners. There's many different ways. We've suggested a few. Of course, you might have some ideas of your own, but we've suggested a couple just in case you need sort of a little spark. How to make your own quadrats, information about health and safety around these nature surveys, and then also more specific tips for pollinator count and the grassland survey. So for pollinator count, how to identify specific flowers and things like that. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that if you are going to be doing any of these nature surveys, and really the first thing that you should do, ideally when you join Nature Park, is to create your site boundary. You can see a site boundary there on the screen. It's the green outline of that school. What that does is that gets you on the map, and what it means is that any data you collect, whether it's habitat mapping or nature surveys, or whether on microclimates, we've got a whole range of things, Habitat Heroes, Hidden Nature Challenge, that whatever you do on your site, it means that it's linked, that data is linked to your site and it is linked to your URN. So just first things first, whether you've already joined Nature Park or you're thinking about joining, make sure you get your site boundary down. And we've had webinars previously where we've gone through how to do that, and we've also got a whole page dedicated how to create your site boundary. It's very easy, something you can do in 5 to 10 minutes. Next slide, please. Just to highlight something that Laura already touched on around Nature Discovery Week. So it's from the 29th of June to the 3rd of July. And it's really a time where we're trying to encourage everyone to get out and do their nature surveys. So as mentioned, all you need to do for this is to have a site boundary and then submit a nature survey. So whether that's pollinator count, grassland plant survey, or going out and doing some iNaturalist observations. So during this week, we're really also encouraging everyone to go onto the Nature Park map, which we're going to touch on a little bit later. And on that, it's a place where you can see everything that everyone has done. So on that image right there on the right, you can see, if you see the large butterfly, those are some of the places in the country where people have done pollinator counts, and all those other icons are places up and down the country, because remember this is at a national scale. People are submitting different iNaturalist observations. We also have various digital badges that you can download, so you might want to include those on your school website, your newsletter, any sort of communications, celebrating the work that you've done, whether you've done a pollinator count or any of the nature surveys. You can get that and send it out to the rest of your school community. Next slide, please. One thing just before touching on the surveys is a reminder that the resources on the Nature Park website, and that includes the nature surveys and the resources around them, all go through quality assurance. So they all get checked by a curriculum team, they get checked by the science team, they get checked for language, with our comms team, and then also they go through a design and accessibility check. So all these things that you see, they've all been checked, they've all gone through that process, and they've all been tested with learners as well. Because as I mentioned, having a program that works for educators and for learners is very, very important, and we take the quality of our resources very, very seriously. So just a little guarantee for you. So touching on the pollinator count. So the pollinator count was first launched in 2024 and then redesigned in 2025. It is available from April 1st till the 30th of September, and it has been adapted from the UK Pollinator Monitoring Scheme. And we work very closely with UK CEH on this. They're very involved in the program, and they're the people that run, they coordinate the UK Pollinator Monitoring Scheme. So we're making sure that we're adapting with the people who are running these schemes. As mentioned, it's been out and been tested with learners. So what is the pollinator count? Well, essentially, it is putting a quadrat down, so a survey square, and then you're looking at a certain species of flower within that square for a period of either 5 to 10 minutes, depending on which version of the survey that you do. And then your learners are counting the number of different pollinators that land on that specific flower. So when I say a specific flower, if you had a quadrat or a survey area with multiple different flowers in, say like a daisy or a dandelion, you're only picking one of those species. So you might observe all the insects landing on just the daisies or just the dandelions. So the relaunch in 2025 is when we launched a second version of that, of the pollinator count, and this was following us going into more schools, both primary and secondary, to run sessions and get a lot more testing done on it. So this version, and this is the version on the left, has been designed alongside UKCEH to be much easier for students, whilst also providing a lot of rich information that's still useful for schools, but then also for the national research that can happen into pollinators through this program. So where do the two versions differ? Well, the version on the left, you can see there's less groups. So things like we've brought in together, so hoverflies, other flies, honeybees, and solitary bees, we've meshed them all into one group. But again, we've done this with UKCEH, so it's still information that's scientifically important and scientifically relevant. The also difference is how long the count. So on the version on the left, you can do it for either 5 to 10 minutes, or on the other version, it is a 10-minute count. If you've already done the pollinator count before, you might be aware that there were some photos that we asked you to take. Through feedback, we found that that is a bit of a barrier for educators uploading the results. So what we've done is we've no longer made those photos a requirement. If you're able to take them and submit them, that's fantastic, and we'd still encourage and love you to do that. But if you can't, we don't want that to stop you from being able to upload your survey results. So we've no longer made those as a requirement. And as mentioned before, you can do this both directly online, so out on a tablet. If you've got Signal and access to tablets, you can go out and do it directly on your tablet, or you can. We've got survey forms that you can print out on paper. You can take those outside, do them offline, and then when you come back into the classroom or at a later stage, upload your survey results. So just going to touch on a few of the resources we have around a pollinator count. So a few things here. We've got lots of different resources, but just to spotlight a few. So for primary, we've got a resource all about bumblebees, and that's an image. You can see an image of the different sort of presentations. So that's looking at classification and life cycles. And then for both primary and secondary, we've got a whole resource around exploring data. So that's working with static data that's been collected from both RHS gardens and also the museum garden. And then also we've got a ladybird survey that sort of looks at scientific attitudes. So for all these resources, at the bottom of the page, we've got a whole section on the specific curriculum links of those resources. Now onto the grassland plant survey. So this is our newest survey, which we launched just last week, and slightly different to the pollinator count. This can be done at any time of the year and on any grassy areas on your site, no matter how big or how small. You can do it absolutely anywhere. So just a little bit of information about how we created this survey. So again, similar to the UK Pollinator Monitoring Scheme, we wanted to adapt it from a national survey that's already out there. So it's been adapted from the National Plant Monitoring Scheme, again, alongside working with UKCEH. We went into several different primary and secondary schools to test out the survey, and this has led to, similar to pollinator count, us having two versions of the survey, and you can see both versions there. So one for maybe more younger years on the left, and one for maybe slightly older years on the right-hand side. So what is the Grassland Plant Survey? It's essentially building, if you've already mapped your habitats and done the mapping grass and wildflowers activities, it's essentially building on that. So the first section of both, sort of first part of both surveys is exactly the same, where your learners, they put down a quadrat, and for both surveys, it's a 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter quadrat, and they're looking for a number of different plants within their survey. So they're looking amongst the grass and seeing how many different types of plants they can see within their quadrat, and they're doing things like measuring the tallest plant. And then in the second part, they're looking for specific indicators, and this is where the two versions of the survey differ. So they're looking for indicators such as grass, clover, dandelion, greater plantain, and we have a few other ones. And then they're recording certain things about those indicators. So for the version on the left, what they're doing is simply at the start, do you see that indicator in your survey square, yes or no? And then what they're doing is imagining the grid is above, is above their quadrat, and they're ticking which squares they can see the indicator in, and then they're counting the number of squares that they can see that indicator in. For the other version, what they're doing is, again, initially saying, do we have that indicator, yes or no? And then what they're doing is estimating the percentage cover of that indicator within the quadrat. And you can see on the survey form on the right, it's percentage categories like 1 to 4%. And this aligns with the percentage categories of the National Plant Monitoring Scheme. So we, again, have come to these two different versions through the testing that we were doing. Similar with pollinator count, photos are an option, but no longer are a requirement for this, again, to make it as accessible as possible. And you can also do it directly online or do it offline on paper form and submit your results later. Now, a little bit on the resources we have to go alongside it. Again, we have more than this, but just to spotlight a few. So for primary, we have a resource around leaf vocabulary, which with the curriculum is looking at working scientifically, and then an introduction to habitats, which is looking at living things and their habitats. And then for secondary, a resource titled Habitats, Biotic and Abiotic Factors, which is looking at ecosystems. And we're currently in the process of creating a few more resources as well that learners can use to look at the results they've got of their grassland plant survey, to then start making, evidence-based decisions and evidence-formed, observations about, okay, well, we've collected this data. Well, what does that data actually mean? Because we want everything, all the data that your learners are collecting, to have a purpose and to be used to make those evidence-based decisions. We also have a presentation that you can show to your learners if you're running a session around the grassland plant survey. We've got a presentation that goes through in detail how the survey works. So if you feel that your class would benefit from that, from starting off in the classroom before going on outside, then that's something that's there, that's ready to go, ready to be used, that you can use to go through the survey with your learners. And we're also working on one of those for pollinator count, which hopefully should be released very soon. I'm now going to pass on to Juliana, who will talk about iNaturalist and dive a bit more into the data.
Thank you, Tom. So yes, we have the grassland plant survey and the pollinator count that are kind of have got this sort of set, simple protocol to follow, and they're kind of collecting this pretty robust data on the biodiversity of your site. iNaturalist is a great entry tool. So it's a great sort of starting point to go outside and even start exploring and identifying the wildlife that you might share your space with. It's fantastic to learn to identify wildlife. So sort of taking a picture of that one individual bee or mushroom or flower, and then the platform, it's an app and it's a website. By submitting the photo on that website or the app, it will suggest what kind of identification of what sort of species, for example, it might be. But on top of that, you then have an online community of naturalists that confirm or correct that identification. So that then that one picture becomes a really valuable research grade record that can be used right across the world by scientists to track trends, to monitor wildlife, to identify the arrival of new species, for example, and just overall is an incredibly valuable biological record, we call it. Anyone can snap and upload pictures of wildlife, and there's step-by-step guidance on how you create an iNaturalist account for your setting. And just a note to make sure that you check photos, the responsible adult checks the photos for any faces or anything inappropriate from a safeguarding perspective. And on the right-hand side, you can kind of see what it looks like with the image and with the identifications below. There's a map to be able to explore not only your observations, but your local area and see what other people have been observing in areas local to you. And then if you've created an iNaturalist account, all those pictures and all those records get pulled in to the Nature Park map. And this is 2 examples of 2 schools that have both done their baseline habitat mapping, and then they've used iNaturalist to sort of explore their site in a bit more detail, perhaps look either across their whole site or like the school on the right to get more of an insight into a specific area near their wildlife pond. Perhaps to, if there's any like knowledge gaps around your site, this is a great way to kind of collect a bit more data in those areas. And also, the iNaturalist allows you, if you take lots of pictures of the different species on your site, it then allows you to download a species list, which is a really great way to get a baseline of, okay, what are the species? What is this wildlife that I share my space with? And then you can kind of add to it regularly if you regularly monitor your wildlife and add more pictures. And then as you're making habitat improvements, be able to see that species list grow year on year. A little story. This is a picture of an insect that was crawling on my backpack while I was sat on a bus going home. And I didn't know what it was. And so I thought, I'll just snap a picture and put it on iNaturalist. Hopefully someone on there will be able to confirm and tell me what it might be. And they did confirm it to species. This is the plain lacebug. And this was the first record of the plain lacebug in the UK in 18 years. And it's an incredibly blurry picture, but even with an incredibly blurry picture, it was identified to species. And it was actually quite an important find because the plain lacebug affects plane trees, very common in urban areas. And since that picture, many more people have found the plain lacebug, and it's kicked off a national monitoring effort to be able to monitor the spread of this lacebug and kind of mitigate the effect on plane trees. So this is just to say you never know what you might find or how consequential your sighting and your picture might be, blurry as it is. We have a web page all about iNaturalist that kind of walks you through the different ways that you could be using iNaturalist on your site and in your school day, from just exploring the map and having a look at what lives in your local area, to implementing kind of a regular monitoring system on your site, perhaps monitoring different areas of your site or different species based on the seasons, to also running a celebratory BioBlitz event. And BioBlitz is essentially taking pictures of wildlife, making these records, as many as possible in a short amount of time. So like a few hours. So it's about like getting a snapshot of the kind of health and what sort of wildlife you might have in a very local area for a short amount of time. And it's a really great way to kind of kickstart your wildlife recording journey. And like the other 2 surveys, we have a range of resources to help you get started. So from an explanatory video to this interactive how-to guide, which has got really lovely short and snappy videos that walks you through exactly how to create an account, great tips on taking pictures, how to incorporate it within with your learners, and so on. Then there's a student learner-facing presentation, walking your learners through what it all means and sort of tips on taking really high quality pictures, and a guide on how you might go about running a school-wide BioBlitz, perhaps in a focus week at your setting. So as well as doing your baseline mapping at the very start and these nature surveys, which are all about measuring biodiversity directly, what I want to just make a quick mention about is this tracking changes tool. So this is about anytime you hear the word change, so whether you've added a hedge or made a corner of your site into a meadow, or even added a car park or got rid of a concrete path, or anything that kind of involved a change, whether it was for biodiversity or not. This is where this is the tool to go on to draw it on. And it's very similar to the baseline habitat mapping. And it's essential. The reason we've got this is critical to the research. And it's because by having one layer, one map layer, that is all about what's there now, what kind of habitat do we have now, and then a different tool to have what's the change, that makes it very comparable data. So we can say how many square meters of something that has changed. And from that area, we can estimate the biodiversity change. So we can do this both at the national scale, but also we want to be developing tools so that you would be able to track that same difference that you're making, to really celebrate the huge improvements that you're making to your grounds and really showcase the great work that you're doing. There's a great little story of a school that decided to take part in the No Mow May campaign. So this is about essentially not mowing your grassy areas for the whole month of May and letting them grow long and letting them flower. And what they did was they measured the number of species at the start, and then they measured they counted the number of species at the end, and they counted 3 times the amount of species. And this is the kind of tracking of change that you can really show with nature surveys such as the ones we've talked about earlier. You could really easily use the grassland plant survey right at the start, challenge yourself not to cut that little patch of grass, and then do the grassland plant survey in a month or 2 and see the change that you've made. And actually the tracking change tool has got a swipe tool as well. So you can kind of see, okay, what is it now? And then you swipe it across the screen and you see what the difference that you've made since then. So anytime there's the word change, draw it onto the tracking changes tool. How could you use your nature surveys data? So first of all, on the Nature Park map is where you get to see all the data in one place. So these butterfly icons are the pollinator count surveys, and then there's a different one for the grassland plant survey and the iNaturalist. So you get to see them all in one place together with your baseline habitat data. And this is allowing you to take evidence-based decision based on your site's unique context. So this school here, they did a pollinator count in 2 distinct areas, as you can see here. This was a tall wild patch area, and this was a flower garden habitat, to see and to compare the sort of pollinator populations that they would have in those 2 different sites and what kind of changes they might make as a result. And not only that, what kind of changes you might make, but also once you've made those changes, really demonstrate that the changes have worked, that you really have increased pollinators by X%, for example. It's a great chance to, as an opportunity for meaningful outdoor learning, to take your lessons outside. And they really lend themselves well, if any of you are writing your climate action plans, they really lend themselves to be written in as actions. The nature of these surveys is that they're iterative, that you do them at the start, that you do them before and after a change, and then as more and more habitats are being created or changes are being made, you can really track the difference that you're making. And I just want to say this is a huge, the difference that you're making is a massive collective impact. The Nature Park is a huge community science project. Community science is the same as citizen science. And it's really about, in this case, young people and educators collaborating with scientists from the Natural History Museum. And we're really all part of the same research team, investigating the wildlife, investigating the nature across schools, colleges and nurseries across the whole country. We have a blog that's all about community science success stories in schools that you can take a look at on the website that really highlights the power of community science in school settings. And there's so much, as Laura said, there's such a mystery. Not many scientists have had a chance to explore and investigate what the biodiversity of school grounds. So this is a real groundbreaking research project that we're part of. And we're investigating what kind of biodiversity there is. How might it react to these different habitat enhancements that we're making? And really investigating nature recovery in these sites right across the country. I want to say that coming up very soon, we're developing this data portal, which is going to be a digital tool that allows you to filter and to download not only your own data that you've collected, say between now and when the data portal will launch, you'll have done some pollinator counts or some grassland plant surveys. So you'd be able to download your own, but also ones local to you or ones right across the whole of a nature park. So watch this space for that coming up very soon. And I also wanted to mention that next week on the same day, so on Wednesday, exactly a week from now, we have a webinar that's all about making changes. So the practicalities, if you want to dive a bit deeper into, okay, well, how is it that we create a pond or manage an existing pond or create or boost our grassy areas on site? Come along to that webinar because we'll dive a bit deeper into the guidance and the practicalities of how you go about that. And then the final date is the Nature Discovery Week. So Monday, 29th of June, up to Friday, 3rd of July. So starting from 29th of June. If you'd like a hand with anything that we've talked about today and in general with taking part with Nature Park, we have our hello@ email address, and we have a fantastic team of regional officers local to you in each of the regions of England. And there's their email addresses on the slide there, and they're also on the Find Local Help page on the website. They're fantastic people, super knowledgeable and very friendly, and they'll have just the answer for you. And also suggestion, the Nature Park map is open access, so you can have a look on there, not only at your own site, but take a peek to a school perhaps local to you, see if they've added a meadow or a green wall or whatever habitat enhancement you might be thinking about adding, and then reach out, because I'm sure they'll have tons of tips of how they made it work for their site. And as Laura mentioned, we have fantastic success stories on the website for inspiration for how all of this works in schools, colleges and nurseries right across the country. Thank you so much for joining us today. And just to say, you can follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest news. And this webinar, as well as all the previous ones, are on our YouTube channel. So there's lots of webinars there about habitat mapping, site boundaries, creating research grade maps. This one will be on there as well. And the future one next week, all about making changes on your site, such as with ponds and grasslands. So on that note, I'm just going to stop sharing, but please ask us questions. We're here for a few more minutes. So we look forward to answering your questions in the chat.
One thing.
Sorry, Tom.
One thing I would just like to quickly mention, as I said, we've done testing on the pollinator count and the grassland plant survey. And we're looking to do even more, just to see if there's any ways we can improve it, if there's any resources around it that would really be beneficial for teachers. So we are looking for a few schools, some primary schools, some secondary schools in the at the moment in the Greater London area to come in and run those sessions and sort of observe some of those sessions being run. So if you are a school that's based in that area, in the Greater London area, please, if you could, and you'd be happy for us to come in, please get in contact with the National Mailbox, the Hello app that Juliana mentioned, and we'd love to hear from you and have a chance to come in. Thanks.
I can't see any questions in the chat, so we might be able to wrap up there.
I think someone had raised their hand, but if I don't think we have the ability to unmute you, but just if you write it in the Q&A, we'll be able to see it and then we'll be able to answer it live.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, Laura, for posting all the links in the chat there about the resources, the nature surveys link, the success stories, the next webinars and local help. So do have a look at the links if you haven't already. Oh, thank you very much. We're glad it's inspiring and there's lots of ideas there. Definitely don't feel pressure that you need to do all surveys within the next week. Just pick whichever one you feel inspired by and start with there. Start with what you've got and then take it from there.
We've had one question from Steve in the chat who's asking, are there any examples of running the National Education Nature Park activities for schools on site as well as off site at a nature reserve? And thanks for a great webinar. Do you want to take that one, Julia?
Yes, definitely. I mean, in terms of off-site, we know that Botanic Gardens have used the resources, and I know of some Royal Horticultural Society gardens as well, that even though submitting the results means you would they would end up on the Nature Park map, and to submit the results you need a site boundary, which would only work for schools, colleges and nurseries in the UK. That doesn't take away from the fact that you can still download all the resources, all the guidance on the website, and then use it for your own local park, local garden, botanic garden, nature reserve, allotment, wherever it is you'd like to do. The resources are there, they're open access, anyone in the world can use them. So yeah, definitely feel free to take and use away. And for activities that schools have used on site, yes, absolutely. We know of a few different schools that have run the Pollinate account with us and the Grassland Survey. We've been outside and kind of been out and tested with them. I've seen students of different ages help each other as well. I've seen kind of year 12s helping year 6s do the surveys and kind of reading through all the instructions together. If you have any examples, Tom, jump in.
What?
Examples of being used in schools.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't know if Laura quickly wanted to touch on Les's.
Yeah. So we've got a question from Les in the chat who's asked, as a climate ambassador, can I connect with a non-state school to the National Education Nature Park? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. It's open to all schools, colleges and nurseries in England, so you can sign them up.
And then touching back on the activities, some of those activities touched on in the success stories, but then also some of our other webinars as well. So for some of our webinars, we've had teachers come on to talk about sort of the way that they've run activities. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways people can do it. So for like habitat mapping, for example, there have been some ways where depending on obviously what your school ground looks like, different habitats have been sort of assigned to different year groups. Different parts of the school have been assigned to different year groups. So it could be a similar thing with the nature surveys, where you might say, okay, depending on your school, let's say you're a secondary school, okay, the year 7s are going to go over and do a grassland plant survey in this area. Year 10s are going to go and do a grassland plant survey in this area. And it could be the same thing with the pollinator count. So yeah, we've got lots of examples on the website, but those are just a few little things, different ways. We've also one that's sort of just come to mind is we went into a school and we were talking with their geography teachers, and at the end, so this was with, I believe it was year 9 and 10 geography teachers, they had sort of a project sort of period at the end of the school year, and they used a lot of sort of the nature park resources for doing those projects and having the students doing nature park in different parts of the school as part of sort of their project and investigating different things with their school on site. So that's just one other example.
That's great. Thanks both. We're at time, so we'll bring that to a close now. If you've got any other questions, please do send them through to hello@educationnaturepark.org.uk, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.